Hi, everybody. Welcome to the BC Wheelchair Sports Show, where we share the stories of athletes, coaches, volunteers, administrators, and really anyone involved in the wheelchair sports community in British Columbia and the broader parasport community as well. Today, for our Spotlight on the Okanagan series, I'm very fortunate to be joined by Eva Miller, who's the coach of the City of Kelowna's junior wheelchair tennis program. Hi, Eva. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. So we usually start all of these episodes off by just asking our guests, how did you get involved in wheelchair sports and how did you find out about wheelchair tennis?
Yeah, so I lived in Toronto for many years, and I was doing my second coaching course at Club Pro 1. And in the first day, so there were about 35 men and 3 women. That's another story. But one of the men was Joel Denby. Joel Denby won a medal for Canada at the Pan Am Games in Toronto. So he was in our course. He was going to take the course to become Club Pro 1. So it was the first time I saw a wheelchair tennis player, and I was so impressed with him. He was such a nice guy. We got to talk a lot. And we had to hit all the time in this course. It goes on for several months, and there's a lot of playing. And so we had to play, against anybody. And Joel was one of them. And so that's the first time I really saw a wheelchair player. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how this guy does it. It's so hard. Tennis is not an easy sport, and to do it in a wheelchair and hold the racket and move, it was mind-boggling to me. So then he told us about a course that was coming to Toronto, hosted by Kai Schrattmeyer, the national wheelchair coach for Canada. So he came to Toronto, and he still had some space. So I went into that course and spent the whole day in a wheelchair trying to play tennis and learning, how to move and play. And it was amazing. I thought, wow, this is so hard, but I really love this. And I love the fact that you can play this sport with able-bodied people. Yeah, the rules are the same. So I don't think that many wheelchair sports are like this, where you can actually play it with anybody. And so I like that inclusivity about it, that you just need one other person. It doesn't matter if they're in a wheelchair or not. So you can have fun with someone else. So I took the course, and then I wanted opportunities to actually teach it and get better at it. So I went to Bloorview Hospital in Toronto. It's a children's rehab hospital. And they were having a gym program, and they wanted tennis coaches to come in and teach wheelchair tennis. So I did that I think I did it for 2 or 3 years. I went in every 2 weeks, and I was part of their gym program. And we had children with really terrible injuries that spent months and months at that place and go to school there. And so, I just did there was completely different skills. Not always the same kids. So sometimes they would be, went home and then new kids would come in. So it was just a good way to see it a lot. And then I also was an official. So I used to work in tournaments, and I decided to go to some of the wheelchair tournaments to actually see how they play. And so I saw professional players play in Toronto, went to several tournaments and as an official, and then, just saw more of it here. So when I moved to the Okanagan, I approached the city because I knew they had an access department. And I said, why don't we try to see if anybody's interested? And then we started with one kid, really. We started with one kid that came out, and that kid told 2 more kids. And because the community is small and they all kind of know each other, so now I have 6 regular kids that come, different ages. Yeah.
So it sounds like you really kind of dove, once you discovered it, you kind of really dove in 2 feet first.
Yeah, so my background is also, I used to be a pediatric nurse. That was my first profession. And so I've always loved working with children. And when I took the course with Kai, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so me. Like it's almost like I need to do this because I don't know, my background and caring for kids, it just was what I really thought, this is what I'm doing. This is what I should be doing. Obviously, there's not a lot of it, so it's not like something I can do full time.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to have this group and to expand it. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think it's really great, when we have athletes, coaches, or volunteers even that really have a strong passion for getting involved and like really take it very seriously, but also in a way where like you're committed to making it fun and exciting for these kids. And I think that's really, really important. So thank you for that. My next question kind of has to do with what are some of the unique challenges involved with coaching wheelchair tennis versus, say, your experiences in the able-bodied tennis world?
Yeah, so the challenge is, first of all, my age group is very big because obviously we're not going to find 5 kids that are 8 years old.
Yeah.
So the youngest that started in my group, I actually had the age set for 8 and up because I didn't think kids could do it before that.
Yeah.
But this one of the little kids, like one parent asked, like, she's only 5, can she come? She's very fast. I said, well, why doesn't she come? Well, this little girl is like super determined. She's fast. She wants to learn. she had no problem.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, 6 and up is good. We can do that. My oldest is 13. So it's really a big age gap.
Yeah.
And also the abilities of all the different kids are very different. Obviously, everyone has some different disabilities.
Disability.
So yeah, so it's difficult to get them all on the same page. So I always have to find something for challenging for the older one, something very simple for a couple boys that can't even move their arms very much. We always try to adapt and make it fun, but I definitely need help. Like I always, the parents help a lot. I have volunteers because you can never get them all to do the same thing. I try to do a group thing in the beginning. We do line tag or we have fun together, and then I sort of separate them. Yeah. And then I separate them a bit so everybody gets some challenge for the day. But that's the challenge is the age and the different abilities.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's pretty common across all kind of junior wheelchair sports, whether it's tennis or wheelchair basketball or even sledge hockey, is because in this world we are dealing with kind of smaller pools within communities. So you have to open up age groups a little bit wider. And I really like that point that you said about people of having different abilities and needing to adapt kind of to your athletes as opposed to the athletes adapting to your coaching. So has that been kind of an exciting and interesting little wrinkle for you, is figuring out the ways to adapt different skills for different kids and finding ways for each of them to have some sort of success?
Yeah, no, I actually enjoy that challenge, but sometimes I leave where I feel like, oh, I didn't have enough time. Like for a few weeks, I didn't have any volunteer come out. And I felt like, oh, I don't know, this is hard because I feel like I haven't been able to give them enough. But the parents are totally understanding. They can see that I can't be everywhere at the same time, and it's fine. And then when I have volunteers and we can do different things, it's much better. But it's just how it is. I think the kids are just happy to have a program just for them. They really enjoy coming even to see each other. They socialize. Everybody's in a wheelchair, which is unusual for them because if they go to school, they're the only child in a wheelchair. So they feel very comfortable there. And that's actually very important to me. I can see it's important for the parents because they also connect with each other. They, tell each other of new things that kids could try. So they're very supportive of each other, which is nice to see. So it's also a social thing, and sport should be. So for kids to come out and see their friends.
Nice. So I guess going off of that, have you noticed any sort of significant differences in any of your program's participants between when they first came out and first started to where they are now, either like in terms of their confidence and their personality, or just their ability to kind of play tennis or push a chair or do any of those skills?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So my first participant came out, and she was my first one. She came with her little brother, her older brother, and he's not in a wheelchair. She is, and she was even slow pushing the wheelchair, and now she's like chases people. She has cerebral palsy, so everything is slower, but like she's really improved in her movement, and also her confidence. Sometimes we even play like basketball to warm up, and she's just fierce and wants to be fast, and it's cool to see. Like definitely I see a big difference in her ability. Every one of the kids has improved something for sure. So that's good to see. Yeah.
I mean,
like we started out like balancing the ball, and now they mostly can hit the ball. They hardly miss a ball when I send it, and it's fun to see. Yeah.
I have CP myself, so I know how difficult that wheelchair tennis can be for a lot of people with that condition, because of the fact that tennis is a sport that requires a lot of coordination. And one of the big things with CP is that oftentimes people with CP aren't very coordinated, and it's less as a part of their natural athleticism and more just due to the limitations. So it's really exciting to hear, that you've got a kid out there who is really improving and developing those chair skills, because that takes, time and effort. And the fact that you've got, a young participant who's put that time in and is working and getting better means that you've created an environment where they feel empowered to do that and they want to get better. So thank you to you, because I'm sure that means a lot to that kid and to their family. And I think it's great that we have, that there's opportunities, especially in an area like Kelowna, where oftentimes there's not a ton of activities for kids with disabilities.
I don't think there's any. So, I mean, they can go horse riding. There's not much. The parents have told me there's nothing for young kids. I think I'm the only program that they have, and they definitely should have more.
So going off of that, how would you like to see your program grow in the next couple of years? Where would you like to see it go and develop?
I mean, the way it is right now, I think is great. I hope it continues like this. Maybe we get a few more kids. I've had a couple kids come out, but they're too far away. They live in Penticton, which is a long drive after school. So I feel bad because there's like kids in Vernon and there's kids in like Penticton, and there are some kids that could benefit, but it's just too far for the parents to drive. So maybe it can grow in different places. I don't know. For us, I think maybe some of the kids will develop a little more competitively. Right now I work with Sam separately. I got some funding for him to work with him privately because he's ready to go a little further, and some of the kids will too. There's a couple of kids that I can see in the future, if they want to take it a little further, they can. Just growing it. I'm very lucky to have Rob Shaw. He comes out when he can, and he is amazing to have on the court because he's in a wheelchair and he can show the kids.
Yeah, he's one of the best.
Obviously, like he's the best I can have, but he's getting ready to play in the Olympics, so he's busy. So he comes out when he can, and when he comes out, obviously we have an even better program because he knows exactly what to do. He used to be a coach, he's a player. And I have, so I just need help.
Okay.
I need some people that have a little tennis knowledge And that's what I'm finding. Like I have a girl right now that used to be a college player. I'm going to have a girl that's a competitive junior that's going to come out. Like I need people that understand a little bit about the sport. And they will, I can tell them, okay, you go and do overhead throws and catch, and they will know exactly what I want, right?
Okay, so that's great. So folks, if you're out there listening and you live in the Kelowna area, you have some tennis knowledge and you're interested in helping out with a fantastic junior program, definitely get in touch with the City of Kelowna's Parks and Rec Access Department, and say that you want to apply to be a volunteer. It's a great opportunity to get involved with from what everything I hear and everything that Eva's telling us, sounds like an absolutely phenomenal program with some great kids and some great people running it. So definitely look into that. Now, Eva, for our last question before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask, what advice would you have for anyone else who's considering going into coaching wheelchair tennis or considering taking a wheelchair tennis course?
I definitely think they should take the course if it's offered somewhere. It was really helpful to me. I wouldn't have been able to teach it, I think, without the course. It is only a one-day workshop, so it's not a huge commitment, but it definitely helps to know how to turn the chair, how to move with the chair, have the racket in your hand. Other than that, I do a lot of, I teach mostly able-bodied children and adults. I just try to figure out, okay, this one we can do without any change, and this one I just have to change a bit because obviously they're in a wheelchair. So you just have to be a little bit flexible and adapt things. But to me, I'm teaching kids the same way. These kids just move differently. That's the only difference. But it's very gratifying to teach these kids. I look forward to it every week. They smile. They're so happy to be there. When you teach able-bodied kids, they get dropped off by their parents because their parents want them to try tennis. They might not necessarily want to. All my wheelchair kids want to be there, and it makes a big difference because it gives you energy and makes you happy to see them smile. So.
All right, well, great. Thanks again for joining us, Eva. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all that you do up in the Okanagan to provide opportunities for kids with disabilities to get involved in sport, get physically active, and make social connections with their peers. It's so important, and sport is so much more than just competition and practice, and you're helping provide that base and provide those opportunities. So it's thanks to people like you that we end up getting athletes down the line who are competitive and join our provincial teams, and we really appreciate it. So thanks a lot, Eva. Thanks to everybody who watched our show. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.